In today's video, we're going to be comparing the 2025 Yonex EZONE 100 versus the 98 to help you decide which is best for your game. Starting off with specs, almost everything here is different, and critically, the story is that the 100 is easier to use than the 98. The larger head size and thicker beam on this 100 make it more powerful, stable, and forgiving, especially on those off-center shots. We've also got a slightly lower average static weight and average swing weight to keep this 100 square inch frame as maneuverable as possible. Another key difference here is the stiffness. For the 2025 versions, both of these EZONEs have been softened in the throat with Minilon, but the 98 is 5 points softer than the 100. Now, despite the 68 RA on this 100, I really would not be concerned about comfort. Both of these rackets are pretty comfortable, and RA in this case tells a story more about how much bending is going on with the frame rather than pure comfort. You can feel this 98 bend on contact quite a bit more than the 100, especially as ball speeds start to increase. This means you get a little bit more of a connected, rewarding feel from the 98, but you're going to be losing out on stability, power, and your ability to redirect pace. So we know in theory what these spec differences should mean, but in reality, how do these two rackets play on court?
Welcome to the court for the testing of the 2025 Yonex EZONE 98 versus the 100. All the way from down the street, give it up for the legendary. It's Simon Hook-Q-Ease, Q, Ali MG, Gutierrez, Weapon of Misdestruction, and most indubitably, your host, Beckett One Punch Jones. Now off to Beckett for the rules of the test.
The parameters of today's test are brought to you by Direct Tennis. Direct Tennis has begun their global expansion, so now if you're a stringer located anywhere in the world, you can join the Direct Tennis network to increase your customer base through their iOS app. Potential customers will be able to sort by stringers in their area to find your at-home stringing business. Check out Direct Tennis using our links in the description for their iOS app, website, and Instagram page. Thank you so much to Direct Tennis for their support, and back to the video. So for this test, I've strung up both of these EZONEs with the same string, tension, and gauge to help isolate the variables so we can really tell you the difference between these two frames. And here is the EZONE 100, same tension, 50 pounds, mains and crosses, sniper mains, 16 gauge, sync crosses, coming in with a slightly lower DT here at 34. Here is the EZONE 98, freshly strung right off the machine at 50 pounds, with Tour Sniper 16 in the mains, sync 17 in the crosses, and the DT fairly high at 36. Now for this test, both of these rackets will be tested completely stock with zero weight added. We will, however, be testing these rackets with an overgrip, as most people, I think, use an overgrip. In this case, we're going to be using our official overgrip providers, Lukey Super Dry Grip, and then also a Yonex vibration dampener. So here are the specs of the exact frames we tested, since weight balance and swing weight will vary from racket to racket, meaning the rackets that we have here might not be the same specs as the rackets you order from Tennis Warehouse or Tennis Only or Tennis Warehouse Europe. And while, yeah, Yonex does have the best quality control of any of the major brands, there are extreme cases where static weight can vary by up to 14 grams, balance point can vary by up to 14 millimeters, and swing weight isn't even necessarily strictly controlled for. And the reason we bring this up is because different specs can lead to different playing experiences, even if you have rackets that are supposed to be the same. So our goal here is to provide you with the exact specs that we used to help you understand why we had the experiences we had and why those experiences might vary from yours. We also opened a brand new can of Dunlop ATP Championships for the shoot day, though most of us have spent more than just that one day hitting all of these frames with a couple different string setups.
My name is Simon from TennCom, and I specialize in craftiness, grinding, and cheating when necessary. Level-wise, I'm probably like a 4.0. I can occasionally breach the 4.5 barrier, but more often than not, I'm shaking hands with 3.5.
Hi, I'm Ali. I used to be a pro player at the Futures level. I am now an open player and a certified coach here in Vancouver.
My name's Mitch. I'm a recreational tennis player. Played as a junior growing up. Took a pause. Been playing for the past since 6 years old.
Racket setup, undetermined. I've been using the Solinka Whiteout XTD for a long time. They're starting to show some signs of wear that may or may not be related to abuse. So I'm in the market, shall we say.
For a long time I used the Wilson Blade V7. It was my favorite racket. It allows me to have so much control through power, shattered them completely. And for a very brief period last year, I was using the VCore 98 until somebody lost it at the airport. Afterwards, I started using the Babolat Pure Drive. Beckett did a great setup on strings and weight distribution.
So currently using Pure Strike 97 or VS. Also trying the Technofiber 305, and I've been playing with a Gravity 98 for a little while.
Power, I think both have decent potential. For me, the 98 is just so much more difficult to use. It's kind of got an effervescent vibe about it, where most of the time you hit it and you're not getting the same kind of response. Whereas the 100 is a really consistently easy to use power racket. Accessibility wise, it's among the best I've ever hit with. So it's really interesting that there's such a gap in accessibility to power, not necessarily power itself.
So I swing on a very specific speed, and my speed of swing, it allows me with the Pure Drive, for example, to get through the court with tons of penetration and making my ball bounce really close to the baseline. I don't have to add anything else to my regular swing. However, if I wanted to get anything out of the EZONE 98, I felt like I had to put so much more effort. I had to make my swing so much bigger, and I just had to put a lot of action on the speed of the swing through contact in order to get even a little bit of power. And yet I don't think I got enough satisfaction out of that ball to say, oh my god, this racket is amazing.
Spin, it's the same story. I don't think either are out and out spin frames. I don't feel like I'm getting crazy RPMs out of nowhere, but the 100 on a consistent basis can provide a deep, attacking, spin heavy ball. Whereas with the 98, I feel like I have to get everything lined up perfectly in order to get that spinny shot. As a generalist on court with a tendency to prefer serving and volleying, I think that the 100 is just so much more suited for my game. The 98 honestly might just be for someone who's better at tennis than I am, who's got better footwork, better action, but I don't know why they would want it, because the 100 is just a more consistent, more dialed in frame. And in my opinion, it's the obvious choice.
Between the 100 and the 98, famously, I don't really like this 98 that much, and that proved to be true once again today. The 100 is definitely a better playing racket for me just across the board. I feel a lot more connected to what that racket is doing, both in terms of how it's swinging, but also what's going on with the string bed. On serves, I'm finding better power, better spin, better consistency with the 100. The 100, I just don't have to work as hard, and I don't feel like I'm losing very much control or spin or feel with that frame. So it's really hard for me to feel any kind of confidence with this 98.
I wouldn't say that the 100, it's good at one specific thing. I would say it's a very good racket for everything, but not specific for power, specific for topspin, or specific for underspin. It felt like the racket could let me do everything well, not anything particularly amazing.
Right.
So I could hit the ball, but it wasn't my best ball, and I could slice, but it wasn't my best slice. I could get topspin, but it wasn't high enough. But I like that the EZONE 100, again, allows me to do everything well. It just allows me to stay in play, allows me to defend, allows me to build. I didn't feel as comfortable on the serve. I think because the handle might have been a little too big for me, and I have trouble dropping the racket and then flipping. But for everything else, it was very easy to swing through.
I surprisingly liked the 98 better. I completely expected to hate this thing, having previously tried it. I don't know if it was a setup difference, but it felt really good today. The 100 didn't do it for me. Felt a little uncontrollable for me, as you'll see in some of the point footage of Simon kicking my ass.
What about the 100 did you not like?
So I just felt like I couldn't find the court with it. No matter what I tried, it just felt like uncontrollable for me. I did try it previously with weight, and it felt a lot better. I don't know how much weight, but at the top, it just felt a bit more stable. Felt like I could swing through. With this, I felt like anytime I swung through, it would go long. If I would kind of block it back, it would go in, but it just didn't feel right. Redeeming factors 100, I was able to throw it on the ground with no repercussions. No, it felt like a decent racket. It just wasn't for me.
Stability-wise, both frames aren't bad. I think the 98 can get knocked around a little bit more under heavy pressure, but the 100, on the other hand, is one of the most stable frames I've ever hit with. It provides good feedback, but truly it is an isolating racket, and it's comfortable to use, and it doesn't get bullied, doesn't bend, doesn't deform. All around, very stable racket with the 100.
On service returns, the stability of the 100 pays a lot of dividends. This 98, I feel like you really have to find the center of the string bed to get great performance. Off center, it can twist a little bit, can be a little bit unstable. And so yeah, I'm just finding pretty much in every single category, spin, power, control, stability, feel, I'm preferring the 100.
I feel the 98 requires a lot of strength in very small parts of your body, like wrist action, forehand, maybe like your shoulder. It's just really hard. It's really, really hard to maneuver. It feels like when you're swinging, the racket, like it feels like the racket had different parts moving at different speed. Counter that, for me, I'm trying to create a little bit more spin of my wrist and my elbow, and I hit for I hit for 15 minutes with it, and I started to feel pain in my elbow. So anything that I try to hit flatter doesn't get over the net. Anything that I create spin with goes over the net, but there's no weight.
98, it's hard to use for my game. It doesn't feel natural. Ali said in her segment that she felt like the tip and the throat and the handle of the racket were coming through her swing at all different phases of the stroke. I spoke with Manish from Tennis Warehouse, who had that same feeling as well, and I have that with this 98 too. I think if you have a really modern technique on your forehand, the EZONE 98 can be a little bit hard to find your best tennis with.
The 98, although it's not my favorite, I seemed to play decent with it. Was able to swing through, and the ball seemed to find the court. It didn't feel the most predictable. I wasn't able to really feel any feedback, like a bit muted perhaps. But yeah, it worked today.
Feel-wise, both of these rackets are pretty similar. They've got an isolated, but still just enough feedbackiness, very scientific, to provide you with a satisfying feel. I think as far as Yonexes go, both of these rackets feel very good. Whereas Yonex is generally, in my opinion, a little bit too isolated, these still provide a little bit of something that I'm looking for.
It felt very muted overall.
Both
rackets, yeah. The 98 has a more it's harder to tell where on the racket I'm hitting the ball. So I can't really find the sweet spot even when I hit clean.
Thing you didn't like about the 98?
Yeah, the 98, I didn't like how muted it felt, so I didn't quite, although it worked well, I couldn't quite feel what was happening and what was going on. Didn't feel very whippy, like it felt quite stable throughout, which isn't my favorite type of thing.
Control, this is the biggest difference. The 98 I found very hard to control unless I was perfectly set up and really going for an attacking shot. Whereas the 100 has both power and control at a level that I'm not used to with most frames. I honestly really like the control from the 100. Final thoughts, the 100 is better than the 98.
Yeah, let me know if you guys have racket recommendations for 98, maybe control oriented. As you heard, I'm kind of in between rackets trying to figure it out. Don't think the EZONE are going to be for me, either the 98 or the 100.
And if you're looking to get a little bit better feel, some better control out of your EZONE, whether it be the 100 or the 98, I highly recommend Tour Sniper in these frames. It's been absolutely awesome for us to kind of wake these frames up as they can be a little bit muted. We've got affiliate links in the description below to Grapplesnake USA, and we carry them on the TennCom store. Link in the description. So if you still aren't quite sure which of these two EZONEs is best for you, here are my final recommendations. I'd go for this 98 if you're coming from something quite control oriented like a tight pattern blade, a Prestige, or an Ultra Pro like Madison Keys. Players with more old school game styles, long, flatter strokes, more traditional grips, especially on that forehand side, I think are going to have the best luck with this racket. And I think this is kind of funny because in contrast to the previous EZONE 98, which I think was pretty appealing to a very wide range of players and play styles, but it worked especially well for those with more modern technique, I think the 2025 version is a little more in line with like the DR98 being better suited to this attacking or more all-court styles of play, as it can be really tricky to find the spin and stability really needed for more defensive counterpunching styles. The EZONE 100, on the other hand, is a true all-arounder. We loved it from basically all areas of the court. I think there's enough control here for most aggressive players, though extreme cases like Mitch, who absolutely rips the ball, didn't find what he needed here. There is enough power and spin for those defensive players who are going to be counterpunching, and that stability and feel also works supremely well at net. I personally had a lot of success also using this frame on my forehand with all sorts of different grips, just smacking around kind of casually. I could go all the way full Western and then bring it back down to Eastern, and I still had pretty good performance, and it suited the swings of all different kinds of grips. Both of these rackets do have a pretty soft and more muted feel, so if you are like us, the testers in this video, who generally prefer something a little more connected, a little more responsive feeling, I might consider looking elsewhere. That said, if you like this really solid, comfortable, plush feel, these EZONEs are easy to recommend. Now, if we helped you make a buying decision today, you can support TennCom using our affiliate links in the description to Tennis Warehouse, Tennis Warehouse Europe, or Tennis Only Australia. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you. A little bit of a different style video today. Let me know if you enjoy these kind of comparisons with a few different opinions. They're fun to make. The 10 friends make it pretty easy, and let me know if you want to see more of these. I think we'll do the 100 Allie's pure drive that she's smoking balls with versus the EZONE 100. And I'm going to be getting rid of this EZONE 98 because it's just not jiving with any of us, even Mitch, who preferred it to the 100. I don't think he's going to really want to pick this one up again.
If you found the V-Core 98s, 3 V-Core 98s in the Vancouver airport on January, please let us know here at TennCom, because I miss them so much. Thank you.